The Cold War has never really ended.
This is a very racist.
To stop the federal government from investing in new weapon systems.
Most of the mining comes from
Still
Canada.
under the Indian Act.
Again, snipers.
James, Justin Jr.
Grocery is gone. I have to let them out.
Soaked in the blood of Tigrayan.
From the river to
The revolution will not be won with hot takes. Welcome to the Red Review.
Welcome back to the Red Review. My name is Daniel. I use he, him pronouns. I'm coming to you from Takaranto, the traditional lands of the Haudenosaunee, the Anishinaabeg, the Chippewa, the Mississaugas of the Credit, and the Huron-Wendat.
And hello once again, my name is Emily. I use she, her pronouns, and I am coming to you from the unceded territories of the neutral Haudenosaunee and Anishinaabe people known as Guelph, Ontario.
This is our second interview in a series of interviews with the Municipal Socialist Alliance candidates, all members of the MSA, and as well as Socialist Action, the host of this podcast, live and work on stolen Indigenous land from across Turtle Island. So we echo the call of land back and of Indigenous self-determination. There can be no reconciliation without restitution, and that means seizing the assets of the major resource developers and returning them to the commons. The next person that we're introducing to our audience, the next MSA candidate that we're interviewing is Kiri Vadivelu. Kiri is a social justice activist running with the MSA for city councillor in Scarborough Centre, Ward 21. Kiri, who immigrated from Sri Lanka as a child, successfully resisted a legal eviction of his family at the Ontario Landlord and Tenant Board during the 2020 emergency lockdown. He passionately strives to make housing a human right in Ontario. A founding member of the Scarborough Tenants Union, Kiri is a leading voice of Toronto Acorn and a committed member of Justice for Workers. He was a shop steward of the United Steelworkers Union, where he fought for better working conditions, and was a recipient of a 2019 Leadership Award from USW headquarters in Pittsburgh, USA. Kiri Vadivelu acquired a Bachelor's of Arts in Criminology, Justice, and Policy Studies at the University of Ontario in 2010. Welcome so much, Kiri. How are you doing?
It's an honor to be here, and I'm very delighted to be talking to both of you in this very important time in history.
Absolutely, Kiri. Emily, do you want to get us started off?
Yeah, so is there anything about yourself you want to mention that wasn't covered in your very impressive bio?
Yeah, there's a lot to cover, but what I would like to be covered as, something that, more importantly, the housing as a human right. And what I would like to see is, like every other developed countries in the world, we need strong tenant laws, and we need to have housing as a human right in the city of Toronto. And that's something that I will not stop until we get it. And that is something that I'm really passionate about. I think the bio did mention it, yes. But yeah, that is where my passion and inspiration come in before this politics. Yeah, and politics is not something that I ever thought of in my lifetime. I never thought I would have to walk into this political path, but here I am. Now I ask myself, why did I wait this long? Why did I wait until the granite land in my house in order for me to go out to the street and fight? I guess, like most people, I was just a student, getting my bachelor's done, and then going into the workforce, looking after myself and my family. But then when the COVID came, we all got hurt. And the working class, students, families, workers, we all got hurt. But the upper class, they were able to mobilize, and they were able to get rich. And the big corporations, they were able to even do better in the COVID. So that was a wealth transfer. COVID was a wealth transfer. And here we are fighting for our justice. And while fighting for justice, I am, in one way or another, getting involved in politics. Which it's like I said, it's something that not I planned, but while I was fighting for tenants' justice, starting with myself, and then tenants across my neighborhood, I got involved with other folks who are fighting for the same thing. And as a community, we are together, and we are fighting for justice, and we are fighting for people. That's something that I'm very passionate, I'm very happy about. It's something that unexpected journey in my life.
Absolutely. So you were a co-founder and organizer with the Scarborough Tenants Union, and you recently wrote an article that's on the Municipal Socialist Alliance website about this illegal activity of a lot of landlords, especially during the summer months, where it comes to air conditioning, where they're trying to intimidate their tenants into paying extra fees for air conditioning, which is entirely illegal. And so do you want to share more about that story? What were the threats that you've received from the landlord and how you're organizing within your own apartment space to resist this?
Yes, this intimidation tactic has been used by landlords for a long time. And particularly in my building, I've seen this notice, the air conditioning fee for the past 5 years, 4 to 5 years now. We've been getting that notice. And we, as tenants, we talk across, and our electricity is included in the rent. And why there's an air conditioning fee? And we were talking among each other, and we come to realize it's just another way to extort rent and intimidate tenants to submit into paying it. And if I were to the notice that actually it's also in the article that I shared. So it was very well written, well prepared notice. Actually, it ties the air conditioning fee into the rent. So a typical tenant would look at it and say, oh, now it's my rent, it is a part of my rent, I had to pay. But that's not true. And actually, that's illegal. That's no such fee exists. And according to Landlord Tenant Board, that is doesn't exist. And it was created out of thin air to extort more rent and to intimidate more tenants to paying more. Which, if you were to look at it in a Scarborough, this in my ward, in Ward 21, 70% of the people here are visible minority. That's again, I'm referring back to the census statistics, 2018 census statistics. So 70% of people are visible minority, and more than half of them are living paycheck to paycheck. And half, the same amount are actually renters, and they're paying. They need 2 paychecks to pay rent. And now landlord, the big corporate landlord, someone like mine, wants more rent. And where are we going to go? And where this is going to stop? And that's when I looked outside for political leadership. There was none. And when we had first eviction notice in my building, there was at least about 10 people received the eviction notice, and only a handful of them actually resisted until the end. Most of them actually end up submitting to them, and the others end up leaving the building. So I was one of the few who resisted until the last, because knowing that we have the people and we have the laws in our side to win this battle. So I was able to win along with my neighbors who already supported me. Yeah, that's a great victory, and that's where I got the strength to fight back. And what we see right now in the city is a political oppression. It's the status quo politicians. What they're doing, they're saying that tenants and corporations have equal footing, so they can fight and win in the landlord tenant board. So we don't have to do anything. That's the typical response from Stoner City Council. And why do we have City Council in the first place if everything is okay? If people can sort out their problem at landlord tenant board, and what's the point of having City Council to support tenants? So what's really frustrating is that there's completely absence on political side. There's no leadership. And in the COVID, we've seen that pretty strongly. There was a complete absence of political leadership. And that really inspired people to take the leadership and folks in the community to fight for their justice on their own. And that's where we are. Myself, along with many other tenant leaders in our community, we are stronger than ever. And we are passionate to fight. And we are fighting till the end. And I really like to see other tenants organizations to also get involved politically. That's something that with time it will happen. But ultimately, we need to have a political vision to achieve this. We cannot achieve, tenant unions cannot do the fight on their own. It has to be, the political support. And right now, the major political parties, they're just doing brand politics. It doesn't matter which way you look at it, liberal, conservative, or NDP. Eviction was not even a subject in the last federal election. So what that means, their loyalties are shifted. Branded politics parties are really concerned about getting re-elected. And that's very shameful, because parties should come to power to serve people, not to remain in power and occupy a space. People need real leadership. Right now, the crisis showed that people need leadership, leaders who can balance the inequalities, address the inequities. But instead, we have leaders who take it from tenants and give it to big corporations. And what we had to serve is another disgraceful thing. Because people were getting served, tenants were expected to pay rent. That's pretty much indirectly what that means is bailout for landlords. So it was not even assistance for tenants. So year after year, what we see is political destruction, and our society is being robbed by status quo politicians who have no interest in serving the needs of the people, but instead just getting themselves rich or getting their friends in positions where they want them to see, and not about serving the needs of the masses. That's why I'm passionate about politics, municipal politics. It's something that we don't think. I mean, a lot of us, we actually talk about federal politics, provincial politics, and get excited. But we don't really get excited about municipal politics. We should, because municipality is right close to us.
Yeah, like municipal politics is one of the most accessible things to get involved in, and it's the thing that affects people's day-to-day lives the most.
Exactly, Emily.
So, what voice are you going to be bringing to City Hall after October 24th?
When you obviously get elected.
When you get elected.
Yes, the biggest voice that I wanted to have in the City Hall is tenants' voice. Right now, in the City Hall, there's no representation for tenants. As we speak, landlords are writing laws for tenants. This is just like our banks telling poor people how to manage their money.
Yeah.
It's, our masses are really informed enough to make these decisions. People in municipal politics, less than 1/3 of the people actually vote. Why? Because people are fed up. I mean, we can ask, there's two outcomes, right? Either the Toronto City Council is doing an amazing job, people don't need to get involved in politics, or the other side is they're doing such a shitty job, and it doesn't matter what kind of people get elected, nothing improves, so people give up. So the reality is the second one, that people just given up. It's sad. It shouldn't be that way. If masses want to be interested in politics, and politicians have a responsibility to lead and take the leadership, and that's why I wanted to put that voice in the City Hall and to have a tenant's voice in the City Hall. Mm-hmm. That's the only way to balance the inequities. And if you look at it, my council, if you look at it in my ward, 21, over 50% of the people are tenants. And how come there's no representations in the City Hall for them? Mm-hmm. So there's a great need for it.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. And so, Kiri, I want to also ask, you're a member of ACORN, this group that does fight for impoverished communities, tenants. And after the last city election, they released a report. They looked into big developer money corrupting municipal politics. They found that every single sitting city councilor received some money from big developers supporting their campaigns. And so do you want to comment on that? What does that mean for how we need to organize then, given how much big money there is behind status quo candidates?
Absolutely. It should be illegal. Big corporations shouldn't be putting money in our politics. And why they're buying politicians. And this is exactly what the banks are doing. They're buying politicians. This is disgraceful and it shouldn't even happen in a democratic society. To buy democracy with money, it's just, then what's the point of having a leadership? And, to sell our voices to corporations. And I think that's, politicians should not get any donations from corporations. No one should be getting any donation. And there should be a donation cap on how much they can donate. That's one of the ways to fight against these corporate inappropriate donations. And this is only what we know, but there's so much that we don't know. There's so much that don't come to our eyes.
Yeah. Well, it takes the work of groups like ACORN because from what I understand, I don't think the money necessarily comes directly from the corporation, but from people that have ties to these developers. So they make personal contributions with an obviously vested class interest. And of course, who are the people that have the most money to throw at a municipal election candidate are going to be the wealthiest people in our society. Mm-hmm. We've talked about that in our last election. The only way we can vote is with the dollar. Even at the poll, if you have more money, you can have a bigger vote by being able to support the candidate that will agree with you or will maybe cut your taxes while attacking other classes in society.
And this is why we say, you may not think you are into politics, but we can guarantee your boss is interested in politics, your landlord is into politics, everyone around you that has control over the quality of your life, they are very invested in politics, and it behooves you to be interested in politics as well.
Absolutely. And so, Kiri, you, for me, are a big inspiration in terms of building up from the grassroots the mass opposition to the status quo that is exploiting and oppressing the vast majority of society. From the tenants organizing to the work you do with Socialist Action and Acorn in the streets, you put your body on the line repeatedly. So right now, say that this podcast is being listened to by every single person living in your ward, Ward 21. What is the message that you want to give to the person that doesn't vote in municipal elections, to the person that doesn't see any hope or any reason to hope for a better world? What do you say to the immigrant that has come here and their vision of Canada as a just, democratic place has been just shattered by the reality of living in a slumlord's basement or something like that? What do you say to the person that doesn't see themselves represented in the political process at all?
It is sad. It's a sad reality that we are in. It's something that all of us that we need to realize. Voting is our right, and it is our power to choose candidates. And what I really want to stress is people are smart. They know, but it's just that they realize that the corporate interest is too big to even challenge. So they just gave up and not even get involved in the political process. And they don't even get, majority of the people don't even get the vote. Or they actually go to work because, they say, oh, you know what, if I take time off to vote, nothing is going to happen anyways. I'm not going to see any benefit. And why would I want to lose my paycheck for that? But instead, what we have to see the other way around is that we only have 1 day in 4 years to put our voice in, and that is our ballot. And we have to speak our voice through voting, and that is the only way to put these corporate interested candidates in check. There's no other way. There's no other way to put a democratic voice in the government. So those folks, who are disappointed, let down, they need to realize they do have power, and they can vote. They can speak their voice with vote, and not only vote for candidates, but look at the platform what they're standing on. Let's not get dragged into these cliches and popularities and these big words. Instead, look at their platform. What do they have? Where do they lie? Are they with the people or are they with the corporations? Do they have real vision? So there's a common issue right now we have is that people think, oh, you know what, if you elect a candidate who's on the left side, they're going to be tax increases, or on the right side, this tax is going to be low and the crime rate is going to be fought. But that's not how it works. In reality, if the social condition bursts, that actually results in higher taxes. So if you have a social harmony, social order, social structure, then we don't need to have higher taxes. So what folks need to understand is that we don't need to be afraid of tax going up. Instead, we have to invest in the platform. So, for example, overfunding our police budget is not going to solve crime. And police are not crime solvers. They are just crime fighters. Solving social disorder and solving crime it's a collaborative responsibility of our community. And so what we need to do, we need to address the inequalities, and the issues that actually results in social disorder. So, we have to redefine what the problem is before we actually try to solve it. What I see now is for far too long, we just seek remedy for the symptom. We don't address the root cause of the problem. So if we start addressing the root cause, we can put Toronto on the map and we can have Toronto in charge. Toronto is not a poor city by any standard. So we have the power and we have the people and we have one of the most educated communities and we can lead. And it's just that we had to get the politics right. Mm-hmm. It's just that there's a lot of noise, a lot of misinformation, and folks, when I say folks, I'm referring to my community members, people in my community. People need to really ask themselves the questions. What is the platform? What are they standing on? Are they really for the masses or are they really for the few? So I think that will give clear answer. Nobody needs to know how to vote. Nobody needs to be told how to vote. People know how to vote. It's just that information needs to be clear for them to see it and process it. What I would say is the best thing we can do is to get out and vote like our life depends on it. And that's when we can put these corporate interested candidates in check. And look, in my ward, Michael Thompson, he's been running for the past 4 elections now.
Yeah.
And the biggest high-profile achievement for him is Taste of the Danforth. That has nothing to do with the interest of the working class.
Mm-hmm.
And in the meanwhile, rent is going up. People are losing 2 paychecks to rent. And the majority of the community here are a visible minority: Filipino community, Chinese community, Tamil community, Black community. They are being bombarded by this increasing inflation. And oh yes, the inflation is a big word. We need to redefine the word what is inflation is. In my view, inflation is a planned economical disaster created to mobilize wealth upwards.
Mm-hmm.
So
Well said.
that is what inflation is. Where we are losing is we are not defining the problem right. If you define the problem right, we can find the right solutions. So yeah, we need to address the needs of the people, and in order to address the needs of the people, we need to understand where the problem is, where the candidates are lying, how we can vote to make that change. And again, I'm running on a principle, so it is going to be untested hypothesis. However, I'm optimistic people will choose the right candidates.
Amen.
I like that untested hypothesis. It's fair, but the idea is we've tried the current way for far too long to still honestly be able to believe that it could be anything good for the vast majority of people. Emily, any last question?
We've had enough replication studies. We need to try a new approach. Amazing. Well, Kiri, where can people find out more about you?
Oh, absolutely. I'm present on social media. My Twitter handle is Kiri _Vadivelu, Vadivelu, and I'm on Instagram, Facebook, anywhere. Pretty much, if they can just Google me, they can find me. And I am also setting up my website, so my website should be ready in a few days. So that's kiri-vadivelu.ca. And my email is office@kiri-vadivelu.ca. And yes, we will make some noise in the streets, and we'll put people's voices first.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much, Kiri, for taking the time to talk to us today, and all the best of luck with your campaign. It sounds like you are exactly the voice that is needed. So I wish you all the best.
Thank you, Emily. Appreciate it. And it's a pleasure to talk to both of you guys. We'll take the tone of forward, not backwards.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. Forwards, not backwards. And this is just the second interview. The MSA, if you're unfamiliar, we have a slate of 10 candidates as of right now. So keep tuning in, keep hearing from the voices of the working class and oppressed who are joining together to fight to reclaim our communities from the tyranny of the 1% and the capitalists that make money off of our sweat, tears, and blood. Until next time, stay safe in solidarity.